Hey guys, this is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today we're going to be getting into how to create a business plan for a boutique. So in this example, it's going to be a fashion boutique, women's fashion boutique. And I'm going to be using this free business plan template. You can grab it in the link in the description down below, no strings attached. And I'm going to be using this to show you an example business plan, going through the whole structure. And then the main takeaway I want you to have today is I'm going to show you 5 key things that if your goal is to get financing approved for like a small business loan, these are the 5 areas you're going to really need to make sure you focus on to increase your likelihood of getting approved for that financing. So who is Projection Hub? We've helped more than 50,000 small businesses create projections for their startups, for their investments, for their business plans, for their loan applications, you name it. And that includes hundreds of boutiques and retail businesses. And who am I? My name is Kyle, and before my time with Projection Hub, I was actually an SBA lender for almost 7 years. And so that time was spent working with business owners to prepare their loan packages and their applications, which included reviewing their business plans and their projections and all of the things they needed to collect in order to try to get approved for financing. So that included many retail shops and stores. And so I'll kind of be using that experience as we go through this today. So if at any point this video is helpful for you, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment expressing what you liked about the video. That really helps us as a small business. And if you want to see additional content, consider subscribing to the channel. Not all of our content is about boutique businesses and retail businesses, but of varying degrees of creating projections of financial management and small business tools and that kind of stuff. So you might find that valuable. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in now. So why is your business plan important? Now, this probably sounds obvious. Maybe it sounds cliche, but it's worth saying is the purpose of your business plan is to not educate the reader on the industry. The purpose of the business plan is for you to demonstrate exactly what your plan is to be successful. What your goal is, what does success look like, what are you going to do to become successful, and what are all the numbers involved around that, right? So you're trying to make your case to increase confidence that you're going to repay a loan or give a return on an investment is really the plan that you're doing here. So you don't need to spend time educating. It's not a brand new concept or a novel idea, which isn't to downplay the business. It's just, you can keep the business focused on your specific plan. So as I start to kind of go through here, I want to stop and just right off the bat, you can see here in the table of contents kind of the structure of the business plan. Now there are subpoints in all of those. But the main thing I'll point out to you is that, this isn't very long. We're talking less than 20 pages. And a common myth is that people think their business plan needs to be long to be good. And I would actually argue the opposite of that. In my time as a lender, if someone would give me a 50-page business plan or a 100-page business plan, there's no way we're going to have time to read all of that. And so really who that ends up hurting is you, the business owner, because you probably have important details scattered all across that business plan that might get missed or might fall through the cracks. And so if you can cut out all of the educational fluff, then you can focus on just including what really matters and what your lender needs to see in order to make the best decision that they can. And so another thing I'll point out here is that the financial projections, take up half of the business plan. And so, that's another key thing is a lot of times the financial projections are the afterthought and they just put them together because they have to, when in reality, it is the most significant part of your business plan. And so we'll get into that a little bit further in this video. So going through here, we're going to hop right in. And your executive summary is what's going to be first. And I want you to think of your executive summary as kind of like a cover letter to a resume for like a job application. And so you can see this is just really high level about the business, about the owner, who the owner is. You can have there's some fluffy things in here like a mission statement, vision statement. You don't have to include all of that. Some people like to include a quick snippet about the financials. And so maybe that's like total startup costs, how much financing are they seeking, maybe when they plan to break even. That's not uncommon in business plans, but you don't have to do that. And then moving further into the company description is kind of an extension of the executive summary, but here you can see this is a little bit more detailed, just kind of about like let's call it the personality or the identity of the business. So company history, or you may describe this as like the founder story, just shining a little bit of light, giving a little context as to like how we got to this point. that doesn't need to be crazy long. Just do high level points there. Here you have legal structure, but then I think these two are really important. Unique selling proposition is, so if we have a fashion boutique, well, what makes our fashion boutique different? Like, we need to talk about, maybe there's lots of fashion boutiques in my area, but maybe mine is the only one that does a specific type of thing, sells a specific type of thing or focuses on a specific type of thing. And maybe, we need to define who our ideal target actually is going to be. So that's what we're doing there. Now, moving forward into our market analysis, this is going to bring us, I think I had mentioned, we're going to focus on 5 key points today, 5 key areas. And when I get to each point of those points in the business plan, I'm going to stop and spend a little bit more time, maybe talk about some specific examples, maybe show you a little bit of a demonstration. And this is one of those. So in our market analysis, I don't want you to think about this like on Shark Tank when they're like, the total addressable market is $2.7 trillion. It's like that. It doesn't matter. We're talking about where we're going to be located, who are the people we actually have the chance to try and win as customers. And we need to try and demonstrate that there is room in the market to support our boutique. And so here we're going to outline, again, specifically, what are we selling, who are we selling to, and the local industry overview. Now, I'm in Indianapolis, and not far from me, there's a suburb or just north of the city that's kind of called the Fashion Mall, right? So there's tons of high-end fashion stores, and that's just like kind of the fashion capital of our state. And that doesn't have to necessarily be where we put our business. That's where all of our customers are going to be, but also the competition is going to be really stiff. So maybe we want to look at other suburbs around the city that are affluent and maybe don't have quite the saturation of those boutiques, right? But that's kind of like when you see a dentist or a car dealership or a pharmacy and they're all clumped up together. That's because they know their clients and their customers are going to be there. So is that our strategy, or are we going to be trying something else? So along that same line, you need to list your competitors. Now, not every single competitor, but maybe the most direct ones. So if you have a general idea, who are the ones that are closest in that area, maybe which ones represent the closest, product or service that you're going to offer in your boutique, maybe list them. And then indirect competitors might be more like larger department stores, chain type stores, those kinds of things that you can't really do much about that. You're going to find one of those every 30 minutes in whatever direction you go. So that is worth mentioning. And then again, further drilling down into your target market. But what I want you to kind of focus on in this section, so all those things we just talked about are important, but we really need to provide some specific examples of local research that's going to try and support that. Now, of course, you can go pay for like a market research study. If you have the budget to do that, feel free to do that. But there are also some free things you can try and do. So what we want to try to avoid is the build it and they will come mentality. And so some specific examples here. This one says organize a feedback station near the proposed site of the location. So that would just be like maybe setting up a table and trying to talk to people and getting some feedback and starting to build some general awareness, but also getting some vital feedback on like, would people like a store like this in the area? Same thing, survey local shoppers. So maybe you go to, if ours is like a fashion boutique, maybe we go to like a high nutrition grocery store, right? That's a little bit more expensive. And we survey people there about would they be interested in, what we're gonna open. And then this one is like, I'll give you a demonstration here, a little bit of, I was kind of describing the area that I live in, the Indianapolis area. And if I'm looking here on the northeast side of Indianapolis, I just looked for fashion boutiques near me, right? So you can kind of see how they're spread out. You can see there's a couple clumped up here, there's a couple clumped up here, there's a couple clumped up here. And so like those kind of represent some areas of shops, higher end shops, right? So if I was familiar with this area, if you're familiar with your area, and maybe I knew like, oh, like right here, there is an area, or right here, there's an area where there's some other shops, that would be great, but there isn't a boutique there. That could be, something worth considering. You can also do, this is a free tool. It's called Google Keyword Planner. You can create a free Google Ads account, and then you can go to Tools, Keyword Planner, and then essentially what you can do here is see how often certain things are being searched on Google in your area. So I have the location set to Indianapolis. You can get more specific to that, like a specific suburb or town. It's just, obviously the search volume goes down. And then I'm just curious, how often are people searching these things? And it's going to do a few things. It's going to give me some other ideas that might be related that people are searching for. I'm less interested in how often these are being searched for, and more interested in the trend data. So you can see here clothing boutiques near me, formal dress stores near me, women's boutique near me. And we can see year over year, for the most part, the search volumes are going up, which is a good thing, right? If all of them were negative, that might be an indicator that like the overall demand is trending downward. And maybe that means the market is saturated. There's enough options, right? Or there's less people searching for it. But the fact that they're all positive at least is an indication that like there is a growing demand. This doesn't address the supply side, but again, it does give us some indication on the demand side, which is helpful. And so doing these kinds of things, grab a screenshot, write in some summary about it, grab a screenshot of this and say, here's where we plan to be, zoom in and say, here's a high-end salon and a spa, and there's not a boutique within 5 miles. This could be a prime location. Like, give that kind of detail in your business plan is much better than just saying like, we're going to build it and people are going to show up, right? Like, try to include that, trying to demonstrate that there is a market to be captured. All right, moving forward into the next section, our marketing and sales strategy. So here we will actually get to outline, what are you selling? Maybe what's your price range that you're going to be selling at? Now in this section, you're probably going to say, we're going to have a website. We're going to post on social media. We might run some ads. That's good. You should include that. That's kind of a minimum expectation. But the key point for this section is similar to what we just did in the last. So in the last market analysis section, we wanted to demonstrate that there actually is room in the market. Now we want to demonstrate that we can actually get people in the door. And so just saying again, we're going to have a website, we're going to post on social media, and then people are going to come to our store isn't quite enough. But what we want to be able to try to do is something called traction. That's kind of like a tech. It's more common in the tech space. But really, we want to try to demonstrate that you have some momentum, that you've already done some work to put the odds in your favor, that when you actually open up the doors officially, that people are going to show up. They're going to know who you are. You're already going to have some buzz around your business. And so let's look at some of these examples. I really like, I guess all of them can be useful, right? So this one's talking about a fashion pop-up, right? So pop-up might be you're utilizing someone else's space where your customers might be, and you open up for just one night or for just a weekend or for a week, right? So your overhead is low. You can have small space, a little bit of inventory, so the cost is low, but it's a chance for you to, validate what you're offering or build a small customer base that know who you are by going directly to where your target customer probably is. Collaborating with the local influencers. My only thing I would say here is at this stage, not paying for this, but if you are well connected with someone who may be a local influencer, or they're willing to come to an agreement to give them some portion of the sale proceeds or a discount code so that they can use for their followers, then this could be worth it. Could be worthwhile before you open up. Could be like a pre-launch sale or something like that. But I actually really like these two here. So example 4 would be just try to grow a social following and maybe buying and reselling thrifted items, right? And start having maybe like an online store that you do on the side. So if you can start to build some traction there, that's great. Include your sales data in your business plan. That kind of shows that you're already getting started. Example 5 is something I've actually seen work in our area, and that's been some boutiques partner up with like salons or higher end salons, and they have like a little, almost like permanent pop-up shop inside where the salon sells like their hair product and their styling stuff, right? So that can keep your overhead costs low. You're going right to where your customer's at, and you come to an agreement with maybe a small rent to the owner, or maybe you're splitting sales proceeds with the owner of the salon. And that can be a good way to get right in front of your customer without having to open up your own entire space. So doing any one of these things for a test period or pre-launch or whatever. And if you can just include data to say like, yes, we have some customer base already that's recurring. We've already done some sales. We have grown our followers in this way. Those are great data points to include to make it seem like you're not just going to open and expect people to show up. All right, moving along here. Operations and management, kind of what you would expect here. Staffing, training, how are you going to run your store, the layout, that's great. This might be more helpful for you than it would be for the lender. But the main thing you want to cover here is you want to demonstrate that you know what you're getting yourself into and you know what you're doing. Whether that's based upon you and your specific experience, maybe that's in fashion or in retail, or a partner has that experience, or a key member on your team that has that experience. You just need to make sure you can demonstrate to your lender, let's assume, that you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing with that, you're supplementing that with a partner or another person, or surrounding yourself with people that can give your lender confidence that you do know how to get in. So that way, when you first start out, you're not wasting money, you're not wasting time, but you can hit the ground running and cover all of your bases. So be sure to include your relevant experience and then fill in those gaps with other people that you've already, planned to have join the team. All right. Now, kind of the big one here, the financial plan. So you can see here, we've got our startup costs outlined. We've got an overview of this is like a 5-year overview of some of the high level financial numbers like revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, net income. Here's some retail specific breakdown. You can see some of these columns, are showing pound symbols because they weren't wide enough, so the whole number's not in there because we're kind of zoomed out. You can see how many stores, revenue per store, e-commerce versus in-person. We've got some key ratios here. We've got our monthly recurring expenses that we're planning, so our operating expenses. And then we've got a 5-year income statement or profit and loss projection, cash flow projections, and balance sheet. Now, most lenders, especially for a startup, are going to require probably at least 2 years, but some will want 5 years. So conservative is to have 5 years. And now this is the part in the business plan where most business owners get really overwhelmed, because maybe they know fashion, maybe they know retail, but maybe they just don't understand or know how to create the projection side of things. But that's what I'm here to help. We are a projection hub after all. And so a quick plug, all of those projections were made using this template. This template was built on purpose to enable a business owner to be able to do it by themselves. Built by a CPA accountant on our team. So it is reliable. And this may look like a lot of information, but we are only inputting information on these blue tabs, right? And in this example, we want to grow to 4 stores. So you can see we're going to need leasehold improvements. We're going to need additional loans. You may only need 1 location, and that simplifies your projections a lot. So we're going to put in that information. In this revenue section, we put in things like, in this case again, when our stores are going to open, but we just are estimating how many people are going to come to our store. How often is a person going to purchase? What product categories are we selling? So again, we're only touching the blue sections here, which are numbers you should know about your business. And we're going to do that for e-commerce. Again, here's our monthly expenses, all pre-filled out with pre-researched information, so you have a good starting place. If you're going to have staff members, and then all of these charts and graphs, financial statements are going to be generated automatically for you, right? These are exactly what your lender needs. Again, our background is in lending, and so that's why these projection templates were built. We know what your lender needs to see. And so if you hang around and you're interested in that template, I'll give you a promo code for it at the end of the video. But key point number 4 isn't to have projections. You have to have them. That's a minimum expectation. So be sure to make them. Key point number 4 is that they need to be realistic and within industry expectations or industry norms. And so you may be wondering well, how would I know what's realistic and what's within industry norms? Kind of a lame answer, just go Google it, right? So either Google it, or depending upon your comfort level and your familiarity with some of these AI chat tools, another great way to do this. So I asked it to come up with some key financial percentages that would be average for a fashion boutique. And let's see what it has to say here. Okay, so let's gross profit margin 50 to 60%. Luckily for me, my template calculates that for me, right? So gross profit, 64%. Okay, so I'm a little bit high on the gross profit side. Let's go back here and check net profit, okay? So bottom line profitability margin is 5 to 10%. And I am negative initially. So that's another thing, is because I'm planning to open up 4 stores, it's very cash intensive. So we're going to be planning to lose money for a few years until, you know, we break even, and then we're gonna start to make a lot of money. Okay, so if you were just doing one store, you probably would plan to break even a lot sooner. So don't assume you need to lose money for 3 or 4 years. But you can see eventually we get up to 11%, 27%, okay? So not super far off there. And let's look at operating costs as a percentage of revenue, 40 to 60%. So I'll go back over here and I can see my operating expenses are really high, again, initially, based on the way we're planning to grow. And then they start to come back down to earth eventually, okay? So my example here is a little bit complicated because of the multiple stores, but this is a really easy thing to do, is fill out your projections the best way you can, and then you compare that with just basic research of industry norms on those numbers. And then you dial in your projections to make sure that they're realistic, so that when your lender looks at them, they don't think that, you know, you're living on the moon, right? Like, they have some reassurance that you know what you're doing. Also, if you use a projection hub template, we offer free complimentary reviews. So if you fill out your projections, you can send it to us. An expert will review it, give you feedback. We'll record a video just like this with your projections, letting you know, maybe what else you could try or tweaks you should make. So that's key point number 4. And then that brings us to the end of the projections. One more key point, and now this is specifically if you're trying to get financing or a business loan, and that is being prepared to demonstrate skin in the game. Now, what skin in the game means is basically like, just like if you were to get a house, you are required to put some money down, and you're also, you're on the hook. So like, if you don't pay your mortgage back, you lose the house, right? So you're pledging the house to the lender. Business loan is very similar, right? When I was a lender, a lot of times I would have people come to me and say they had received the advice to keep their personal and their business separate, which is great advice when it comes to bookkeeping, taxes, bank accounts. That's a great idea to do that. But when it comes to the lending side and the financing side, it's very unrealistic. Your lender is going to want to see a personal investment. They're going to want to see a personal guarantee. They're going to want to see collateral. Inventory is probably not going to cut it as collateral, so they're probably going to need to see something with like a free and clear car or a second on a mortgage. Like, I'm not saying these things to scare you or to deter you. Just be prepared for that. Don't be surprised by that. So know what you're willing to pledge. Have that in your back pocket when you're talking to your lender. Don't put it in your business plan, but just be prepared to have that conversation when the time comes. And that's it. That's the whole business plan. Again, you can grab this template for free. It's filled out with an example down in the description of the video below. As promised, if you use PH20BP, I believe it is, you can get a 20% discount off this template. It's already less than $100. Free support included, free review included. There's a video guide that walks you through and shows you how to fill it out. So very simple to use. Give us a thumbs up on the video. Leave a comment if you appreciated this video. Consider subscribing to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.